What's up, my brother?
Peace and blessings, King. What's the good word, my brother?
Oh man, just trying to get it.
I don't think you're trying, man. I think you're doing.
Man, so I appreciate you so much for joining the YouKnowDessie show,
No doubt.
and so please tell our audience who you are and what you do, man.
King Amadeus, representing the Bronx, New York City. Multi-platinum bad boy hitman producer. Blessed produced for over 100 artists. I see you wearing a hat today. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I see you wearing a hat. Multi-platinum bad boy hitman producer that has produced for over 100 artists. J-Lo, French Montana, Remy Ma, Papoose, Chris Brown, Trey Songz, Justin Bieber, Tiger, Lil Wayne, Fabulous, Jadakiss, Locks, T.I., Jeezy, Keisha Cole. List goes on and on. Also, I'm Trey Songz, music director, tour drummer. Been touring with Trey Songz for 13 years. Dre's nightclub, Las Vegas, #1 nightclub in Las Vegas and on the Strip. I am the resident drummer there. CEO of Platinum Boy Music. You got the Bad Boy joint on today. I got the Platinum Boy Music joint on today. So we rocking, man. And I'm happy to be here. Educator, motivational speaker. And again, happy to be on the platform, my brother. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I was definitely glad that we connected, man. I think you might know. I think Bobby
Bobby
Penn.
Penn. Yes, sir. Shout out to
Yeah,
the Queen, Bobby Penn. I saw y'all rocking, and I was like, that's family. He's dope. If she's rocking with the king, then I got to rock with the king, and then
yeah,
we end up here.
yeah, absolutely, man. So definitely impressive work that you've done, and
Thank you.
so I wanted to kind of go back with you and so tell me how your production career started. Did it start with the with playing the drums and coming up from that?
Right. Yeah, I started playing drums in fourth grade. I attended Catholic school all my life. My parents, sacrificed and made sure what they felt, gave us what they felt was the best education possibly to get, especially growing up in the Bronx, where I'm from, 169th and Washington Avenue, very, very rough neighborhood. So I picked up drums, never knew, I never touched drums ever in life. Never touched any instrument ever in life, but when I sat down behind the drum set, it was pure love, pure passion, and magic, all mixed in one. So fast forward, because that was fourth grade, about 14, 15, 16, somewhere around there. Always been a fan of hip hop, always loved hip hop, always loved beats, always loved lyrics, instrumentation. And at that young age, I just, made a decision, decided that I wanted to pursue a career in production. It was something that I loved, something that I was extremely passionate about. And the rest was history, man. 19 years in, going on 20, pretty soon. And, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, man. But, it's the passion that kept me pushing, passion that kept me, moving forward. And, here we are today.
Yeah, so I had Phil the Keys on yesterday, and he's the musical director for Kanye West and
Nice.
the Sunday service. And
Yes,
so
sir. Shout out to Phil.
yeah, so we were getting into a interesting conversation talking about how musicianship doesn't always equate into being able to produce. And so I brought up the analogy like, man, it's almost like a freestyle rapper that can't make a hit record. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Great comparison. Yes, sir.
he can rap for real, but he can't make a hit record, can't make a real song. So
Right.
kind of talk about, being able to do both.
And I'm glad you brought it up, and I loved how you compare it to, like a battle rapper or a really dope MC that may not have what it takes, like you said, to make a hit record. It's definitely two different worlds. Being a musician, like I said, being a musician, whether it's, piano player, bass player, guitarist, drummer, violinist, whatever it is, like you said, it doesn't automatically mean that you're going to be able to produce or be able to put sounds and different things together and piece things together into it becoming production. Two
Yeah.
different worlds. I knew a lot of really dope, talented musicians that
Hmm.
can play circles around anybody, whether it was drums, whether it was the keys, whether it was piano, bass. And then when it came to, being in the studio, it was just something that they couldn't, create on their own. Now, for me, being a producer and having that ear, I can pull in different musicians, you know what I'm saying, and have them play this and play that, and
Yeah.
then have that ear to be able to put things together and piece things together on the production side of things. So I'm glad you brought that up. It's two different worlds, and again, just because you're blessed with the gift of being a musician doesn't automatically mean, you're a producer. And that works the other way around as well. Just because you're blessed to be a producer doesn't mean that you'll be a musician or that you are a musician. I personally can't sit down and play you a masterpiece on keys as if I was, Mozart, Wolfgang Amadeus, you know what I'm saying? Or Beethoven or, Phil Keys, right? But when it comes to putting beats together, when it comes to, uniting samples and a bass line and synthesizers and all of those things together, that's my world. And I feel like I'm blessed with that ear that can be able to not necessarily play it all out at one time, but maybe piece it together, play out what I feel, play out what I hear. And then at the end of the day, once I'm done, it sounds the way I need it to sound. It may take me a lot longer to get there, being that I'm not fluent with the keys and the bass and the guitar, but I know what it is I hear. I know what it is I want to achieve, and I'll just be patient with myself and do what I need to do to get to that point. So I'm loving how, you brought that up. And just to kind of talk on the battle rap thing and just MCs, I work with a lot of artists that were known as battle rappers or just had bars for days. And like you said, when it came time to creating a record, a hit record, a record that can be appreciated around the world, around the globe by both male and female, it was something very difficult for them to do because it's two different dynamics. And, the answer for that is just humbling yourself, putting your pride and ego to the side and bringing in those people that may have the tools and the gift, to put the pen to the pad, right? But not necessarily be an artist, but that pen game is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Michael Jackson, who, hands down arguably, considered one of the greatest artists of all time, did not write every song.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There was records that Quincy brought him, signed, sealed, delivered, done. Here, sing this. You know what I mean?
And I wanted to kind of touch on that as well. So we'll be bouncing around a little bit, but
no doubt.
Now that we're here, so talk about getting some of your records placed and things like that, because I know that from what it seems like to me, like say for instance, the record that went to J-Lo,
right?
I saw one of them was written by Chris Brown, so
yes, sir.
You can collaborate with Chris quite a bit, and then it was placed there versus staying with Chris.
Right. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, man. You've been doing your research. I like that. I like that. You prepared, King.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that's a dope thing where, for that record, there was a situation where Chris Brown, ended up in the studio with J-Lo as she was working on the album. At the time, I think I had just sent Chris a bunch of tracks, a bunch of beats. And in that moment, it was just kind of fitting, you know what I mean? And, just pulled up a folder of mine that I had sent, and, she chose the track, and then, they wrote the track together, and the rest is history, man. So a few records came about that way. That record, the J-Lo record, Same Girl. Also Justin Bieber, we produced a record for Justin Bieber called Christmas Eve off of his Under the Mistletoe album that Chris Brown wrote. Another record, the Dave East featuring Chris Brown, Perfect. Chris Brown already penned and had the hook there, played the for East. East loved it, knowing that he needed a record that can kind of, cater to the ladies and the queens of the world. Being that he's the dope MC that he is, he kind of got to switch it up a little. And we did that with Perfect for Dave East. So, Chris just has the dope pen game. And sometimes, like you said, it can go for himself as an artist. Or, you can be unselfish and realize that this is what you do and that you can, pen hits all day and you don't have to necessarily keep everything. So I love the fact that he was willing to share those records because it allowed, for my resume and my discography, to be adding on some really incredible people like J-Lo, like Justin Bieber, like Dave East, Tyga, and the list goes on.
Yeah. So talk about kind of, I guess, getting your first shot as a producer and getting into the industry, like the one that was like, man, okay, now I'm really in.
Right.
Versus, just kind of being, because, we all, I used to produce too back in the day. That's how I got in. But we would all say, okay, I'm in the business, but I'm not really, really in the business until this particular moment. So what?
Right.
You?
Man, my career and even the start of it was extremely a blessing. My first placement out the gate was Foxy Brown. I actually had the pleasure to produce the title song for the movie and soundtrack for Cradle to the Grave. That was a movie that featured DMX,
Yeah.
Gabrielle Union, Anthony Anderson, Jet Li, Dragon, to name a few. And I produced that, the theme song, the title track for that movie and soundtrack. And I remember, like if it was yesterday, just hearing the song playing the movie for 26 seconds. I still remember the amount of time. For 26 seconds, I remember going to FYE, which of course doesn't exist nowadays, but
Yeah.
FYE to actually purchase the CD, to open up the booklet, to see my name actually in the credits. I remember at the end of the movie, the credits rolling on the big screen and me seeing my name, on the big screen in the movie theater at the time. And that was pretty much how I started. So,
Yeah.
it was definitely a blessing, a gift and a curse, I feel like, because I set the bar really high. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So it was kind of like a note to self, like, dude, you started out this way.
Mm-hmm.
Foxy Brown, who's one of my, most favorite female hip hop artists ever, especially for my genre and my age
Yeah.
group and demographic.
Yeah.
So to be on a record with her, and then in the movie, the rest was history. And this is what I got. This is what I got from that.
Hey.
And again, my first placement ever, man. Cradle to the Grave movie and soundtrack, Foxy Brown. You
With the
know, you know what I mean.
I see a
My wall art right there. So
yeah.
and not everybody start that way. You know what I mean. So it's a blessing to fall into that situation. Following Foxy, came like Mike Jones and Lil Mo and Dipset, and
Yeah.
G Unit and Fab, and it was just a blessing just to see people give me an opportunity, to display my talent and to share my gift, with the world in regards to the production world.
Yeah, and how did you link with Bad Boy? I know that Hitman is a very
Man,
legendary.
very a dream come true. As a
Yeah,
youngin, I would always say, one day I'm gonna be with Puff, man. One day I'm gonna be a bad boy. And when that opportunity presented itself, it was a dream come true. And what I love to share about this is that when I came to Bad Boy, I had already produced for over 50 artists, so I had already built, I already built my resume in regards to what I was doing production wise. And what got the attention of Bad Boy and Puff was a record that I did for Sherry Dennis called "Waiting," off of her debut album "In and Out of Love."
yeah,
And the record I gave her was really unique, kind of like a mixture of a ballad and a
yeah,
but very soulful, very melodic, and it was different from everything that was on that album. And I think that was pretty much how I got their attention in regards to the production side of the things, and them like wanting to see what was up. And
yeah,
man, I remember that email coming through like, yo, man, we want to set up a meeting with you, sit down,
yeah,
see if how we can make this happen. And I remember signing on the dotted line, and now being able to say that I was a bad boy hitman, man, and just epic, and I'm the youngin of the family, so
yeah,
I joined forces with Bad Boy, for the Danity Kane era and Day 26 and making the band and making his band. So that was my whole world of when I joined, the team. So, didn't
right,
have the opportunity to present for the late, BIG, rest in peace, for Mason. I worked on a few things, but like, Faith Evans and 112 and Black
yeah,
Rob, I made beats because I think they were still kind of working here and there
yeah,
then. So I, submitted some stuff. There's probably some demos that are out there, with Mason, with Black Rob, Carl. And I remember chopping
hmm
it up with Carl a few weeks ago and him like, yo, I got CDs from you. And I'm like, me? And he's
yeah,
like, yeah, you incredible. So just to hear that from people who I admire and look
yeah,
up to was a blessing. And somebody, just to throw this in there, somebody asked me, well, why would you sign a Bad Boy if you already, had your name and your brand? And I'm like, listen, man, it's like, LeBron coming out of high school, right? It's like, you got a chance to go to the NBA. You're not gonna sign, with the Bulls. You're not, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I view Puff as, that. I view Puff as, Phil Jackson for the Bulls. You know what I'm saying? And you know, big as Michael Jordan. You know what I'm saying? And you know, Black Rob and them Scottie Pippen and 112 and everybody just adding, you know,
Yeah,
to the team. And it's like, yeah, B, I want to sign to the Bulls. You know, this is
yeah.
one of the greatest moguls and entertainers and producers of all time. So for him to look at me and my gift and feel like, you know, I can fit the team and play my part in the team was a huge blessing, man. So I'll wear that name, you know, Bad Boy Hitman, as long as I got life. And even if, when I'm not here, I think that I'm gonna make sure that still ring.
So for your production, I know you do a lot of R&B as well as rap. So what do you love more personally?
um, I started off, you know, really heavy on the hip hop side.
Hmm.
You know, if you go back to my catalog, you know, like as you see, I started off with Foxy Brown, and then, and you know, went to G Unit and Dipset, and you know, Busta Rhymes, you know, Papoose, K Slay, and you know, all of these, you know, Jim Jones, just real hard hip hop. And you know, I was always surrounded by musicians, and you know, I was challenged by Jay Brown, who's actually, if I'm not mistaken, the VP of or the president of Rock Nation,
Hmm.
and he had signed me to a publishing deal,
Yeah.
and everything that I brought him was just really deep, you know, dark and hard and raw and pause. And he's like, you know, why don't you start making some R&B, man? Why don't you, you know, make some ballads and make some mids, and, you know, just some baby, you know, baby making music, man. Like, why don't you, you know, you're around enough musicians and people that you can put together to make some masterpieces, and that, kind of struck a light bulb in me, and ever since then, you know, I challenged myself, you know, and made sure that I created, you know, both pop, R&B, whatever, just music in general, other than, you know, hip hop. So my favorite, really hard to say, man. Because I
Yeah.
love it all. You know, I love it all, even beyond what I produce. You know, me producing, you know, hip hop and R&B and pop. You know, but I love jazz. I love,
Yeah.
you know, I love Brazilian music. You know what I'm saying? I love, you know, orchestra. I love symphony. I love, you know, EDM. So it just depends on how I'm feeling at the moment. You know, at that time. But if you made me choose, I would probably go with hip hop. But other than that, man, I love everything. I have an
Rock, right?
appreciation for everything. Yeah, man. You know, like, you know,
Damn. So, so talk about the first take situation. So how did you get that? And now when you talk about, I know you mentioned Cradle to the Grave.
right.
Now, people have seen that movie, they've heard the song, but I'm sure first take, like how many people have heard the first take and maybe didn't even realize that you produced it, or maybe they did, but that's one that's been going forever and ever. You know, probably one of them good. That's the good check right there.
Listen, God is good. God is good. Man, that's one of my biggest accomplishments right there, man. And I'll tell us, you know, quickly, because it could be long-winded with the story. But so the music director, I was already working with the music director at ESPN, so I was already scoring music for like Sports Center, the
Yeah.
behind-scenes stuff, highlight reels, the music that's playing, you know, the bed music that's playing underneath those highlights. I was already doing that, and he invited me to speak at a college that he was working at as on a panel. Went and spoke at the panel. After the panel was done, he's like, "Hey, you guys want to go grab lunch?" And I'm like, "Cool." He's like, "Let's go to Subways." I love Subways. Ain't nothing Hollywood about me, you know. So we in Subways, and he just starts talking. He's like, "Yeah, man, I got to get this, you know, this first take theme song done. I wanted to be Talib Kweli and Mos Def, but you know, I don't have no contact information. I can't reach them. So I'm on the side of the lunch table, like, I got a contact on Kweli. You know what I'm saying? I actually, you know, work with Kweli. You know what I mean? My son's mom has been touring with her for like touring with him for like 10 years. So like, definitely a connection there. And he's like, okay, cool. Can you put us together? I'm like, cool, no doubt. So I'm silent for like 2 seconds. I come back and I'm like, so who's gonna do the beat? And he
Yeah.
was like, we haven't decided yet. And I was like,
That's what I do.
let me do the beat. I'll bring you Talib Kweli. Keep it all in the family. You know what I mean? And that's how that came about. Now, obviously, we noticed Talib Kweli and Mos Def is not on the first
Hmm.
take theme song. So there were some discrepancies creatively for why
Yeah.
that, you know, didn't happen on Mos Def's side. I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Um, So just moving forward and needing to get it done. Wale was absolutely a fan and a family member of the First Take show, you know, with
Yeah.
Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. So they brought in Wale. Wale being a dope label mate as he is, brought on Stolly, who was new to MMG at the time, but really dope. Brought him into the fold. ESPN was cool with it. They decided on the beat. You know, we went in the studio together, which I loved, created the theme song. They filmed it, documented the entire process. And then, you know, once they rolled the theme song out, it included like bits and pieces of what we've created and what they filmed that day, man. So definitely a real highlight for me. Still absolutely extremely cool with Stephen A. Smith. Still to this day, one of the most humble, down to earth kings you'll ever meet. I visit the show every now and then when they was in Bristol, Connecticut. They moved to New York. I came down and was a part of, you know, the debut show here in New York City, and they brought out Fat Joe. They brought out Remy Ma, Pat Poose, and Jadakiss. So that was dope. Got to meet Max. Got to meet Molly. Super dope. But yeah, man, and you know when it really hit me? I was in Australia, and you know we were on tour with Trey in Australia, and when I stay in the hotel rooms, I always keep the TV on because that's like, you know, my company. You know what I mean? That lets me feel like I'm not alone. So I sleep to the TV being on. And I remember waking up one day, and this was when Melo was on the Knicks. And they were showing highlights of Melo on the Knicks, and they, you know, had my track playing in the background, and then it went to a commercial, and it came back, and then the theme song played. And it was just a real defining moment for me because I really didn't know how I was like, I didn't know Australia gets ESPN. You know, so I'm down under miles and miles and miles away from New York City, you know, the United States of America in general, and ESPN is there, man. So that's definitely one of, you know, one of my proudest moments in regards to production. So I'm so glad, you know, you brought that up.
Yeah, and then talk about your relationship with Trey. I know you've been you said you've been on tour with him for forever and been his music
Yeah.
producer. So how did you guys link up?
So we were in Houston, working on a record with Mike Jones. And he actually wanted an R&B artist to be a feature on the track. So this is back in the day. This is like, I think Trey had his first album out, you know, with the second one on the way. So this early Trey. So we bouncing different ideas off of one another. You know, Tyrese's name came up, Omarion name came up, Trey came up. I want to say Chris Brown came up. Just a lot of the dope R&B artists at that time. Marcus Houston, Pleasure P, Lloyd, and you know, Mike decided on Trey for various reasons. One, him being vocally dope. Two, from a business side of things, them being label mates. You know, they were both signed under the Warner Music umbrella. So clearance, you know, and the sign off would be a lot easier based on the fact that, you know, they were label mates. So flew Trey down. We're in the studio working on this record. There's a drum set in the corner. I mentioned to them, I'm a drummer, I play drums. They both laughed hysterically. And I'm like, how do you think the beats are so dope? Like, listen to the drums. Like
I really do this.
I really do this. So fast forward, got the record done. I mentioned to Trey in that session, like, you know, with the music that you're making, very soulful, very heartfelt. You know, you're gonna need a live band, you know, backing you up on that stage, man. You know, and when you do, call me. Left it alone, finished the record, boom. A year passed. Got a phone call from Trey's manager at the time, Delonte Murphy. Yo, you ready to put the band together? And I'm like, nope. He said, well, yeah, you told Trey when he needed a band that you was going to put it together, and he wants you to put it together. Now, the reason why I said no is because I've never done anything like that before. I never was a music director. I just played drums, you know, so I didn't know what the role was. I didn't know what it entailed. I'm sure I wasn't prepared for it at all. I just played drums. And it was a real dope moment because I didn't know what I was doing. And in regards to having a band, Trey didn't know what he was doing. So, you know, I gathered my guys up, my brothers that I've been, you know, performing with and playing in church with all my life. You know, they was like, cool, we down. And, you know, we rocked out. Now, we didn't know that, you know, we just thought it was going to be a quick hit. You know, you do a little tour, boom, boom, boom. All right, get back to church, do what we do. And and he was just on fire, man. And we was just tour after tour, show after show, festival after festival. And it just did not stop, man. And that's why I'm like, you know, we've been on the road and rocking hard body for the last 13 years together. And who would have ever knew,
Yeah.
that the same band would be together, that he would have kept the same band. Because, artists sometimes, get a change of heart, want to go in a different direction, want to try something new. And he was fed that a few times. I'm going to be a buck. He was, why don't we try this? Why don't we try that? Why don't we try this? And one thing he never did was budge. He was like, nope, this is my band. These are my guys. They've been with me, technically day one in regards to him having a band. And he's like, these are my guys. They ain't going nowhere, So definitely grateful for Trey. Blessed to be a part of his journey, his career, to watch him evolve and grow as an artist, as an entertainer, into a man and an adult, and even now into becoming a father and a dad, So it's really been dope to be a part of, his legacy and his journey.
And then when the Dre situation, how did that all come together?
Right. So Trey, Trey Songz experience is what it is what we, is our title, is our name. So Trey had a residency there first. And we was rocking for, I want to say about a year or two. And it just happened one random night, I think one of the owner, as I was preparing like my drum kit to play and do the show, he was like, why don't you just jump on for a little bit and play with the DJ for a little bit? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, damn, that's gonna make me tired. Like I already got an hour set for Trey that I go hard on. I'm gonna want to chill out and save that for that. But for some reason, music is music. Is something that I love. Yeah. And as a musician, as a producer, man, you'll find the energy, to do what it do from for music based off of the passion. So I jumped on the drums, rocked out, basically just be playing alongside to the DJ, whatever he threw on, I just rocked out too. And that turned into something special. It turned into it being something that, the owners and the higher ups loved. They loved the energy that it brought to the club. They loved the dynamic and what it added to the music that the DJ was playing. And they reached out to George, who's part of Trey's management team, who represents me as well. Okay. When it comes to the Dre situation, and we locked in a deal. I became, one of the first musicians and drummers, to have a residency, period, right? But then to add on to that in Las Vegas, at the number one hip hop club in Las Vegas, hands down. So definitely shout out to the entire Dre's family. Shout out to Trey, because him having the residency there allowed a door to open up for me personally to have a residency there, as well. So shout out to him. Shout out to my brother George, Dustin, BA, everybody at Dre's, my brother DJ Friends, and who I rock alongside to, each and every weekend, of course, before the pandemic. So that's how that came about, man. And it just created a vibe. There's also some other drummers that's a part of the team right now as well. So shout out to them too, man.
Yeah, and one thing that I can say, not only I see somebody that said shout out to God, absolutely shout out.
Oh
to
yeah,
God.
yeah, absolutely, always.
But
everything I do.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also see, like, how they say closed mouths don't get fed. A lot of times it's seeming like you're put in these positions and you're, you just have an ability to say like, hey, I do this, or letting people kind of know, whether it happens right away or whether it happens, later on. It's power in just letting people know what you do versus being in a room and your opportunity is literally sitting right there, but you too either shy or too prideful to actually say anything.
Right, right. And I've never been that guy. I've always been a person that'll pull up to anybody. Sometimes I might be a little afraid, and not even afraid to introduce myself or, like you're saying, to ask a question, but maybe being afraid of the entourage, or knowing that it's not going to be easy for me to get over there to Puff right now. He has 10 security dudes that got the meanest mugs in the world on their faces. So how do I get through to them to actually get to them? So those are the things that you face in those moments, man. But you got to be fearless and figure out a way. If it's the moment, it's the moment. If it's not, it's not. But if you don't try, and if you don't try to take advantage of that opportunity that you've been given, how do you know? The worst thing that can happen, the very worst thing that can happen is somebody say no. Yeah. Or not right now, or this is not the right time, or whatever. And you got to be able to respect that and just be ready and looking forward to that next opportunity, happening for you. You know what I mean? So I definitely agree with you 100%. You got to be able to be fearless and go right at it, because what if the opportunity never happens again? And that was your moment, to introduce yourself, to put yourself on the map, to just put your name, your brand, what you do out there.
Yeah.
The other advice I can give as well is look for the person you see doing the most in a positive way, right? You
Yeah.
see Chris Brown out, you see Trey Songz out. What person, it could be a male or female, that's running around, that keeps coming back to him, that's whispering in his ear, that's going back and forth on the phone, that's on the phone the whole time. That might be the person that you may want to connect to, because it's not always about getting directly to that individual.
Yeah.
You might.
Yeah.
Everybody has a role, and you might need to connect with the person that's next to the person, or besides the person, that's rocking with the man or the woman in charge. You know what I mean? So I think it's very important to visualize, to observe, and really pay attention to what's happening in the surroundings, and trying to find a way in, if it's the right time, if it's the right moment. Obviously, if the person is out at dinner with his or her wife or family or the kids, that might not be the right time. It might be on the walkout. It might be he or she go to the bathroom and they're coming from the bathroom by itself. Like, these are all of the strategic moments, that you gotta, if the driver is outside, pull up to the driver. I'm so-and-so. Here's my card. Here's my gig stick. Here's my Instagram. I know he's in there with the family. Just pass it along. Just at least, put me on his radar.
Yeah.
Figure it out, man. Figure it out.
Yeah, man. I appreciate this so much for you being on the show, man. You definitely dropping the gems.
My
So
brother.
yeah, so if people want to connect with you to find out where you're gonna be, what all you have going on, please tell them how to do so.
Right. It's I'm on Instagram, Amadeus, PBM, and you see it on the top. I'll type it as well, so everybody can see it.
Yeah.
So I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'll type that down as well.
Yeah.
But that's those pretty much are the two places you can reach me. I do pretty well with my DMs. Remain focused, no nonsense, please, or it'll be erased and ignored. But if if you're about something, holla. I'm one person. I'm one man. Even though this is a pandemic and we're home, I'm still working. I'm still hustling. I have a family. So I'm not sitting around listening to music all day. I'm not sitting around, listening to everybody demos and stuff like that. I'm not a label. I'm not an A&R. I'm a record producer. I'm a musician. So I'm making music just like everybody else. So I just want to put that out there, because a lot of people reach out, and it's just like I would reach out, but again, there's a right way to do it. There's a wrong way to do it. But I'm definitely approachable. I'm extremely cool, humble, down to earth. You approach it the right way, and in that moment I have time to give you a listen or to respond or holler back. I definitely will, man. So much love, to anybody that'll follow. Based off of seeing me on here with you, King. I had a great time, great conversation. Keep up the great work.
It's getting close to cutting out, man.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go off, man. But I appreciate you so much, man. Let's connect and build it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, man.
Blessings,
And
King.
and I'll text you in a sec.
Done deal.
All right.
Blessings.
Peace.